Girl podcast here on Rumble, Twitch, and X and YouTube. All right, man, we got lots of things to talk about today. I really want to get into the voter ID, right? And how both parties absolutely do not want you to do. Both parties don't want voter ID. Yes, the Republicans are out there and they're trying to act like they want it, and their hand is forced into voting for it in the Senate. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. We have forced their hands, we the people, right? With our phone calls and all of our constant online messaging via Twitter, podcast, all forms of social media. We have forced them in many ways to have to vote for this, right? They have the option. If they weren't able to get enough votes, and they weren't able to do something, they would have to nuke the filibuster, and they absolutely are not going to nuke the filibuster. Because then all things Trump agenda are on the table, and there are no excuses why the Republicans can't pass the pro-America first agenda through the Trump administration. You see, both of these parties are exactly the same, right? They have the same agenda, and they all want the same things. And the things they want aren't what's best for we, the American people. They're not concerned with how low your taxes are. They're not concerned with how long or how much your grocery costs. They're not concerned with your property tax. They're not concerned with how much you make per hour to live off of. They have prioritized illegal aliens over you on both sides of the party. Democrat and Republican have done this. Whether it's big business wanting cheap labor, or it's the Democrats just wanting to be able to pop up the Senate or the Congress, pop up the Congress seats in their liberal, whacked out states and cities. That's all they really care about. Like, they're not focused on what's best for the American citizen, because they look at us as if we're their slaves. We work for them, right? That's exactly how they see us. They don't see us as equal footing. They are the ruling class, and we are the peons that mean nothing. And I'm going to show you exactly what I mean, because we're going to pull up good old Chucky Schumer here, right? We're going to pull up Chucky Schumer on CNN. He actually gets pushback, right, on what the American people...
About 83% of the American people, including majority Democrats, support voter ID laws.
Yeah, the voter ID laws that first, each state can have its own voter ID laws, and some do and some don't. But secondly, what they are proposing in this so-called SAVE Act is like Jim Crow 2.0. They make it so hard to get any kind of voter ID that more than 20 million legitimate people, mainly poorer people and people of color, will not be able to vote under this law. We will not let it pass in the Senate. We are fighting it tooth and nail. It's an outrageous proposal that is, that shows the sort of political bias of the MAGA right. They don't want poor people to vote. They don't want people of color to vote because they often don't vote for them.
So my question to Chuck Schumer, and if any of these so-called journalists had a set of balls, they would turn to him and say, well, is it racist to ask for an ID to purchase alcohol, cigarettes, get a bank account, open a credit card? Is it racist to have an ID in order to drive? What about buying a plane ticket? Is that racist? You see, the hypocrisy of the Democrats and the Republicans are just as hypocritical, by the way. Right? There is a downright battle right now in the Republican Party for the heart and soul of the Republican Party. They no longer want MAGA. The American people, the George Bush conservative blue blood Republicans no longer want MAGA to have any control over this party. You see, we fought, we took it back. We took it back, right? And they let us have it. They allowed us to get the win in 2024. And their thought was, we'll let them have this win. And well, we only have 4 years to deal with it. The rhinos, the Republicans behind the scenes said, we'll just slow walk it. Little Jamie Raskin let the cat out of the bag after Trump won. Right? What did he say? Well, he said, we're just going to tie them up with lawfare. Right? We've already got a bunch of attorneys, and you see it, got a bunch of attorneys that are going to throw lawsuits left and right to try to stop him. And so far, they've done it. So far, they have been able to drag and slow down the Trump agenda. Now, what the Democrats fear, and the Republicans, by the way, is that Trump is able to pull off this voter ID. They're going to get the voter records of all of these states, and they're going to begin to see that the illegal aliens and phantom voters have been part of the voter rolls for many, many years. And it works on both sides. Look at Georgia. Look what's going on in Georgia right now as we speak. We're beginning to finally unravel the 2020 election in Georgia and exactly how it was stolen. And when we introduce voter ID, what is this going to do? Yes, I'm going to get the argument that, you know what? Some states are giving illegal immigrants driver's license. You're right. But what it's going to do, right? It's going to cut down on these fraudulent mail-in ballots and absentee ballots because you have to have a driver's license in order to get one for voter ID if you pass a voter ID law. So it's going to instantly cut down on the Democrats' scam right there. You have to have a voter, you have to have an ID for every single vote that's cast. If you think about what happened in Georgia, you know, there were so many additional votes, more votes than there was population. Think about that. How is that even possible? How is it possible to have more votes than the population in a state? And we're told, well, you're never going to end all election fraud. I agree. It's going to be very tough. But what do? We just turn a blind eye to it? And as I said, the Democrats and Republicans, they're both guilty of this. 100%. They don't have the best interest of the American people. They don't have that. Hey, how you doing, man? But you know, Chucky tries to weasel his way out of this. You know, and then let me just play a clip from old Chucky a few years ago, which I find quite fascinating. It was probably from the 80s, I'm going to say. But good old Chucky changed his tune. And the reason he changed his tune, right, is because Chucky realizes that the only way Democrats can win is to cheat. And the same thing for these rhino Republicans in Georgia. So I'm going to pull up Chucky from I'm going to say it's probably the 1980s. Right? And then it's funny how these Democrats have completely pivoted, and they have all their cards on the table now. They don't care any longer that we know that they're deranged communists.
Let's admit the truth. Everywhere people go, they're asked for a Social Security card. In fact, one way to prove you're a bona fide person who can have a job is to ask for a driver's license and a Social Security card. This is an anti-fraud amendment. Over where we go, people say, well, why can't you stop illegal immigrants or others from coming here? And the number one answer we give our constituents is when they come here, they can get jobs, get benefits against the law because of fraud. Let's admit the truth.
Right there. He lays out the case for voter ID. Do you need any other description of? They figured out, right? These deranged lunatic Democrats have figured out that they need the ability to be able to cheat to win because their ideas suck that bad. And that's the reality of it. You know, oh yes, he definitely has hair plugs. Same thing with Joe Biden. Break on through. Joe Biden, you can definitely see the hair plugs. When he was younger, he was bald as hell. He was like me, and now all of a sudden, Joe Biden, and he's like 100 years old, and he's got hair on the top of his head. Give me a freaking break. But it's surprising to me, to be honest, that they're this brazen. It's almost like they're so out of touch with reality that it's true, right? They're so out of touch with reality that they don't realize that all of these things are archived on the internet, and we have ways of getting these clips and replaying them, but they don't care, right? Because what they count on the news cycle being so quick, right? It's like a lightning news cycle. Think about the things we were talking about a week ago. I can't even remember them. You know, now it's all about Nancy Guthrie. Now it's all about it's all about the Epstein files again. It's like a nonstop rainstorm of news that you just the news cycle changed so rapidly, and they know it, and the media does it on purpose. Why do they do it on purpose? Because they want to keep you distracted. And the two-party system is designed, in my personal opinion, to divide and conquer you. Right? Because both these parties, the Republicans and the Democrats, they both want the same thing. They have one concern, and their concern is how can they remain in power and how can they remain rich and enrich themselves more. All on the backs of the American people. And the psyop is they'll go on TV and they'll sit there and they'll fight with each other. They'll create a class warfare, envy, racial warfare, divide us all, keep us from talking to each other, while they distract us from what they're really doing. And what are they really doing? They're doing exactly what you saw in Minnesota. Using illegal aliens to remain in power and to steal our tax money and funnel it right back to them. We're the ones getting screwed. Right? They prioritize these illegal aliens over us Americans blatant and right in your face. They actually rub your nose in it. Right? They rub your nose in it. In Springfield, Ohio, my boy James from Empty Pockets Podcast was sitting there telling us that they had a Haitian Appreciation Day, right? Where telling you how great the Haitians have made your life. Now, I can sit here and tell you, I live in Allentown, Pennsylvania. I have immigrants all around me, and they don't make my life better at all. At all. How is them sucking off all of our resources, cutting the wages of jobs, taking up resources in our schools, going to the food pantry, and taking food away from Americans that need it? How is that benefiting my life? It seems like a burden to me. But yet they try to convince us how it's enriching our lives. You know, you're getting cheaper houses, right? What was it? Salazar a few weeks ago was in the Senate, and she was talking about how these illegal aliens are making your life better, right? They're doing your gardening, and they're building your houses, and they're making your houses cheaper. No, they're not. They're not making houses cheaper. The greedy builders like Toll Brothers and Ryan Homes inflate the prices. They hire cheap labor and they put it in their pockets. That's exactly what they do. The only thing that having these illegal invaders do in our country are cut wages. I know it. I own a flooring company. I deal with these people all day long. They'll come in and do floor for 90 cents a square foot when my price is $2.25 a square foot. How do you compete with that? The prices of goods go up, the prices of nails go up, the prices of saw blades go up. I can't raise my price. How can I raise my price when I'm competing with somebody that's willing to do it for 90 cents a square foot? I can't. Do me a favor. Show me where there's a American drywaller, somebody that comes in and installs drywall in new construction. There's not one American that I've seen in the past 20 years that does that job, because it's all Mexicans that don't speak English. They come up, they pile out of a van, and they're in and out in a day. Now, that used to be a good paying American job. It's not anymore. And you have traitors like Gavin Newsom and all of them over there in Munich. You know what the Munich Security Conference is? The Munich Security Conference is nothing more than American politicians going over there to see how much money the globalists are willing to give them to betray the American people. That's it. How does going over to Munich, Germany benefit me as an American tax dollar payer? Whose dollar's paying for them to go over there? Mine, yours, every other hardworking American citizen. Why? So they can go over there and get groomed by the globalists on how to betray us Americans? How to put more money in their pocket and sell our country out to foreign influence? That's all it is. And we as the American taxpayer should put a freaking a stop to it, to be honest with you. Let's get to Gavin Newsom, right? This low piece of garbage, and that's exactly what he is, right? Gavin Newsom is nothing more than a charlatan shoe salesman like Al Bundy.
Donald Trump is not only temporary, but he may be among the most un-American presidents ever to have resided at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. And I really believe that. I don't say that lightly.
Isn't it funny? A bunch of globalists clapping about Donald Trump being the most un-American president. What are you talking about? I mean, I'm going to sit here and tell you, I don't agree with everything that the Trump administration is doing. One of them is this, all these warships going over to Iran. I don't want to bomb Iran. I don't want to be involved in Iran. Let the Iranian people solve that issue. And if Israel wants to have at it, go ahead, Israel. Do what you want with Iran. I don't want to be involved. I don't want my taxpayer dollars paying for one bomb that gets dropped in the Middle East anymore, because nothing good ever comes of it. How much money did we spend in Iraq and Afghanistan? Billions. What do we have to show for it besides a bunch of dead American children? And this globalist piece of crap, right, is over there in Munich spouting his anti-American bullshit and how Trump is just a president. He's just a president for 4 years. You see, he let the secret out of the bag, folks. Right? He let the dirty little secret out of the bag that all of these globalists and all of these rhinos are thinking. I just laid it out prior to you even hearing this. About the struggle within the MAGA movement and the Republican Party. George Bush wants his party back. That's the reality of it. They want control. They don't think we, the people, are worthy of having control over the Republican Party. They think they know best. They think you're stupid. They don't think you know how to live your life. They don't think you know how to budget your money. They don't think that you know how much money you should earn per hour, right? The Democrats and the Republicans are very similar. There's very few Republicans that I can actually say I trust. I mean, I got to tell you, Thomas Massie is one of them. I know a lot of people are going to give me shit, but I believe he actually has integrity. I believe Marjorie Taylor Greene is another one. I believe she has integrity. I believe that she got so fed up with the situation in Washington, D.C., that she realized nothing was ever going to change, because these people, they're not fighting for you and me. These people that we send to Washington, D.C. are fighting to put money in their own pocket while the American taxpayer gets screwed. That's it.
He's an invasive species. He's taken over the Republican Party, the most corrupt president in American history. What do so many of the foreign policy trips have in common? Members of his family there first. Setting the tone and tenor, setting the course of the deal for the tower, the golf course, for the investments, for the crypto. Witkoff.
Isn't it funny how this blathering idiot's talking about Donald Trump's family benefiting from these trips after Joe Biden and Hunter Biden were involved in so much blatant corruption? He was silent about Hunter Biden being on the board of Burisma. He was silent about Hunter Biden's paintings, where nobody could know how much they were being purchased for or who was purchasing them. Right? He was silent about Joe Biden opening up our national strategic oil reserves and Hunter Biden brokering a deal with China to sell the oil to them. And then they come out with a stat, right? Well, there was more oil being sold under Joe Biden than there was under Trump. Yeah, because he drained our national strategic reserve and tried to artificially bring down the price of oil for the midterms. It's funny how these people forget this. All right.
I hope you understand that Donald billions and billions of dollars in the last year. It's not about policy making, it's about profit making. And the tariff capacity has been one of his principal tools for self-dealing. If you're 30 years old today, for the first time in American history, you're doing worse than your parents' generation. That's code red. So in an environment like that, you're done with the two parties. You're looking for something different. You're looking to, in the vernacular of those old enough, to.
The reason the average student is doing worse than their parents right now is because of democratic economic policies, environmental tyranny. Right? They've cut off the ability to have cheap oil and cheap goods under Obama. Trump started to bring them back, but then Biden comes in and he completely shuts down everything. What happens when you increase the cost of energy? The cost of goods go up. They like to tell you, right, that inflation is based on the amount of dollars printed, this and that. It's all bullshit. It all comes down to the amount of cost of energy. That's it. Plain and simple. They like to try to complicate it to confuse you. But it all comes down to the cost of the energy. The cheaper the energy, the cheaper it is to produce goods, the cheaper it is to transport goods, the cheaper it is to feed the cattle, to milk the cows. It's very simple economics, but they want to feed you a line of shit to confuse you. Right? They're trying to sell you this climate hoax scam. And that's all it is. It's just a big freaking scam.
Scratch the old record, shake the machine. And Trump understands it. Bernie Sanders in American politics understands that. MAGA will not survive past Donald Trump. He's a cult of personality. I said invasive species. Some of you may not know what the hell I'm talking about. But he took over this Republican Party. You made the point. That old Republican Party, some of them are here. I mean, none of us recognize them. They don't recognize themselves. They don't recognize themselves. I mean, Rubio doesn't recognize himself. He was one of the most effective critics of Donald Trump in the United States of America. Yeah. He should rewatch his old videos.
Session on transatlantic relations with two superstar leaders. I don't think From the Bottom Up is the right title for this conversation between these two economic powerhouses. But we'll give MSC a break because it's relatively new that local and regional leaders come here to Munich. I'm Nina Hachigian. I'm the president and CEO of a new nonpartisan nonprofit called the Alliance for Local Leaders International, or ALLIES for short. We are connecting local leaders around the world to cooperate with each other to share and solve challenges, especially in their work to protect and expand liberties and democratic systems. We are coming together, as we have all been discussing, at a time of disruption.
Now, I want to take a quick minute just to recognize the crypto wallet from Rumble, right? The Rumble wallet. Listen, if you have crypto or if you're thinking about getting involved in crypto, you need to download the Rumble wallet, right? All you have to do is go to, you can use the QR code up in the corner of the screen, right? Or you can just go to wallet.rumble.com, right? You can get yourself a crypto wallet. It is your custody, right? So that means when you purchase crypto on an exchange and you leave it there, you don't hold sole custody of that crypto till you move it off the exchange and you put it in your own personal wallet. Now, the one thing I love about the Rumble wallet is you can also purchase crypto through it. You can tip me in crypto if you want with the Rumble wallet. I don't even have to be broadcasting. Just go to my page and hit tip. Boom, my tip jar is open. you just tip me in crypto, which I think is awesome, but it also empowers you financially because crypto is the future. Right? You can use the QR code up in your corner, or you can just go to wallet.rumble.com, download it. They have it for Apple and Android devices. And you know what? You have sole custody of your crypto, so I would recommend doing it today. If you have crypto, take it off the exchange, put it in your Rumble wallet, keep it safe. All right. Thank you so much. All right. We're going to get back to the creeps at
within the United States
Germany.
and also between the United States and Europe, Secretary Rubio's measured speech notwithstanding. The discussion that we'll have today is how does a transatlantic partnership affect states within nations, and what power do they have to shape this critical relationship? I'm honored to be the moderator of this conversation between Minister President Hein of Hesse and Governor Gavin Newsom of California. I was noticing when looking at their biographies that they have similar trajectories from working in cities, Frankfurt and San Francisco, and then senior positions within their state governments until they were elected to be leaders of their states. So today I will pose a few questions to these gentlemen, and then you will also have a chance. So let me start with you, Minister President. The same question to both of you. How do you think about the importance of the transnational partnership when it comes to the states that you govern? What areas of life does it touch, being clean energy, culture, sports, science? To you to start.
Ja, wenn ich da Sure. If I may, I would like to start with the history of my state, Hesse. Hesse just had its 80th birthday this year, and Hesse was actually brought to life based on the command of the former occupational powers, the Americans back then. Now, nowadays, this state is an absolute success story, and that's why we have such a very special relationship. And I oftentimes think about what would have become of me if I had grown up in Leipzig in a different state, so in the GDR, under the Soviet powers and not in an American zone. And of course, around me, I lived in the Frankfurter Dornbusch. You know, we had AFN, PX, housing areas, and also lots of GIs. And of course, for us, the GIs were always friends. We never thought they were occupying us. Never, not once. And that's why this whole German-American relationship to us isn't just any international relationship. We have, of course, special relationships to any other country in the state as well, and especially, of course, Hesse also with the Frankfurt airport and being the financial center of Europe. But I have to say, America to us is a very special country, and I feel so incredibly grateful towards this country. And I think today, of course, it is also one of our absolute most important trade partners. Now, for the General Consulate, we are the biggest location, 1,000 employees. We have a very large American community in our beautiful city. And yes, a lot is coming together there. And that's why I believe partnerships on such a state level, even though, of course, we are a little bit smaller, I don't think that we can really compare ourselves to California. It's a huge state, of course, with a huge GDP. But still, we have a partnership. I think I also just told the governor, we also have a partnership with Wisconsin. We have city partnerships. We have partnerships between students, and of course also economic partnerships, but I think even more important than that, scientific partnerships. And this collaboration is really what brings us so closely together. And I'm saying that so consciously, and it doesn't really matter who's president at any given moment. It doesn't really matter what the majorities are in the country. At this level, it doesn't really play a big role because the people are who comes together, and that's what makes the relationship so special.
Sorry.
Governor.
Appreciate your comments. Look, in the spirit of your opening remarks, let me add mine. I come from an American state that's the size of 21 American states combined. We're a majority minority state. 27% of the state is foreign born. which is an important point. We practice pluralism. That's a word might be even banned one day in the United States, but not currently. We're a universal state. My state of mind is in that construct. I come from San Francisco, a city that has been described as 49 square miles surrounded by reality. But it's a city, but like our state, of dreamers, of doers, entrepreneurs, innovators. But at its core, we pride ourselves on being on leading and cutting edge of new ideas. We say about our state, the future happens there first. We're America's coming attraction. And that's a mindset in the context of your question.
It's more like the destruction of America comes from there. Let's be honest. California has turned into such a nightmare. I don't even know how your average person could even want to live there, afford to live there, tolerate living there. You know, and you have Gavin here drooling all over these globalist slobs, and that's what they are. They're all a bunch of globalist slobs. You have Gavin there drooling all over them, trashing the president of the United States on foreign soil. By the way, remember when that was a taboo to go on foreign soil and trash the president of the United States? Now nobody cares. Now you can just do whatever you want. You see, and that's the thing that the Republican Party really needs to realize at this point in time, right? When you hear them talk about not nuking the filibuster, or the Democrats are going to do crazy things when they get in, when they take control. Well, I have two answers for that. Number one is don't let them win by nuking the filibuster and passing the SAVE Act, right? Number two, all you have to do is look back to when they had control prior to this, right? They passed packing the court, and in the Congress, it went to the Senate. Remember when they were trying to eliminate the filibuster because they wanted to pack the court. I'm sorry, let me correct myself. They wanted to nuke the filibuster because they wanted to pack the court. So they passed it through Congress. It got to Senate. There were only two senators, Democratic senators, that stopped that process. It was Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema. Both of them are gone now, right? Both of them are gone. They only have one senator that I believe is common sense right now, and I believe that's Senator John Fetterman, right? I believe John Fetterman is more MAGA than some of the Republicans on our side. But yet, here we are. The Republicans in the Senate are acting as if we can have a normal conversation with these Democrats, as if you can negotiate with these people. These people are equivalent to Al Qaeda terrorists, right? Let's be honest. Not in a violent so much way, but in a way where it's their way or no way. The Democrats will never surrender to anything the Republicans want. That's why you're seeing this shutdown right now, this partial shutdown. And we're going to get into that and the implications of that and the effects of that, just to show you the narrative on how these illegal aliens are more important to the Democrats than the average citizen in America that was born here, worked here, paid their taxes, contribute to society in America. But you have this sleazeball over there spewing hate in many ways.
Question. That we feel we have agency, that we're not bystanders in the world, that we can shape the future. And so in the spirit of the subnational, in the spirit of people to people, in the spirit of diplomacy, in the spirit of transatlantic partnerships, we feel a unique responsibility to fill the void, to step in to the moment. And that goes back to the founding of my great state 175 years ago. and it exists and persists today. And when I say today, quite literally, today we signed an additional MOU with Lviv in Ukraine. It's one of 28 MOUs that I've had the privilege to sign as governor across the spectrum of the frame that you just announced. Low carbon green growth, of course. California has been the dominant leader in the United States in changing the way it produces and consumes energy. We continue to lead in that space. But also, as it relates to exchange of ideas and idealism and values, in terms of energy and daring, that entrepreneurial spirit defined through technical assistance and teams, through research and development. Germany, China, and California, the three largest jurisdictions in terms of R&D in the world. Point of pride and not in a point in common that is incredibly important. And it aligns our values, and it is expressed formally through these structured memorandums of understanding across the spectrum. We're involved in the climate space with the Under 2 Coalition that started here in Germany. We're co-chairs of the MOU Under 2 Coalition with 34 other similarly sized states and half of the global population. So again, issues of climate, issues of academic excellence and scientific investments, also in culture and sports. So we're going to have two. We've got the Olympics coming in next year. To your question, we obviously are going to enjoy World Cup. California continues to have an open hand, not a closed fist, as it relates to this transatlantic alliance, as it relates to this moment we're living in with all of the stress and the anxiety we're feeling, particularly in Washington, D.C.
Well, speaking of that stress and tension at the national level, I'd like you to talk about to what degree subnational ties can help maintain and grow this transatlantic relationship. And let's start with values that you mentioned. The transatlantic relationship has always been held together by a shared set of values: individual liberties, pluralism, equality, rule of law. The U.S. administration is not always adhering to these ideals. But Governor Newsom, as I live in your state, I know that you have not wavered. And I wanted you to talk about how important are these values to you and your constituents, and does it help?
Now, she's trying to paint a picture of the Trump administration being out of control and being against law and order and equality, right? As we just sat through the prior administration targeting people because of their political affiliation, right? Look at what they did on J6 to all the J6ers. Look at what they did to the Catholics praying outside the abortion clinics, right? The FBI target. Look at what Obama and Lois Lerner did to the Tea Party members using the IRS to target them. But yet these globalists and Gavin Newsom, that slick little silver-tongued devil, wants to sit there and try to convince you that they're all about law and order, equality. As we sat here and we watched what just unfolded in Minnesota, they allowed the mob to attack federal agents while the police stood down. They allowed mobs to burn down cities in 2016. And you're going to sit here and lecture us about law and order? Are you out of your damn mind? You know, and the other thing is, and I want to get into this as we go a little bit further here. I want to get into the partial government shutdown. You know, because it should be really eye-opening for the average American, right? You don't even have to pay attention to top politics like I do 24/7. You just have to have a half a brain and realize what's going on with this. And realize how they're prioritizing these illegal aliens over you, the tax-paying citizen, the one that pays the judge's salary, the one that pays the politician's salary. Right? We've allowed them to shape the narrative that we work for them instead of the opposite. They work for us. These judges work for us. The police work for us. The sheriff works for us. The politician works for us. But yet feel like we are beholden to them, like they are above us. It's because we've allowed it. We've allowed these people to take the power. They've taken the power. We have the power, but we've allowed them to take the power and convince us, the American people, we have no recourse or power against them. It's time for us all to wake up and realize that we have the power at the ballot box. That we can no longer allow the corruption, the prioritization of illegal immigrants over the American people. They talk as though these people that have invaded our country, they have broken into our country and invaded our country. They speak of them as they are citizens that have rights to our country and our Constitution. And then the argument is, well, how can you have borders on stolen land? Well, then my question to Gavin Newsom and all these other leftists that are wealthy and rich, why don't you give up your house? Why don't you give up your $1 million beachfront house to these illegal immigrants and let them move in? How can you own that house if it's on stolen land? That's my question. Watch how quick they change the narrative when you start bringing that up, just like they did with that that stupid singer, Billie Eilish or Eyelash or whatever the hell her name is. Right? She shut up pretty quick when the Native American tribe said, "Oh, well, if your house is built on stolen land, well, then I guess we own your house now, don't we?" The people, they're hypocrites, right? They want you to live by different rules than what they do. You can see it by the two-tier justice system that we experience every day. Hunter Biden doesn't pay his taxes, millions of dollars. Is he in prison? No. No. Why? Because he's Hunter Biden. That's why. Would you be in prison? Absolutely. You see, that's what these politicians don't understand. That's what Donald Trump himself doesn't understand. This Epstein files and the outrage over the Epstein case, it's not about so forth Epstein. It's about people being held accountable for crimes they committed against people. It's about showing the rich that they can be held accountable too. It's not only the poor, the middle class. It's showing these rich and powerful that you're not untouchable because they think they are. Gavin Newsom thinks he's untouchable. Tampon Tim thinks he's untouchable. Ilhan Omar thinks she's untouchable. By the way, that's the one thing I want to, we're going to bail on this. I want to play this, this clip I had. Let me see if I can find it real quick. It's an investigative reporter, right? That discovered that Ilhan Omar's husband, right, and his fraudulent business, right, is just a scam. We all knew this. I've been screaming about this for weeks. Think about this for a minute. Ilhan Omar's winery, right, her winery with her award-winning wine, was completely scrubbed off the internet. Not one trace of it. Right? Why? Because it never existed. It was just a money laundering organization, much like Rose Lake Capital. What is Rose Lake Capital? Well, it's a consulting firm, right, that her husband had with a friend. And they had about $1,000 in the bank when they started. And in a year and a half, they had upwards of $30 million. How is that possible? How is that possible without the Treasury Department or the IRS looking into it? But they never do because, well, Ilhan Omar is what? She's the protected class, not like you or me.
Of the strongly worded letters and never-ending investigations. So in this video, we are going to be infiltrating Ilhan Omar's sketchy consulting headquarters that claims that they have $60 billion in assets under their management, yet they are located out of a co-working place called WeWork. This company is called Rose Lake Capital, and it is co-owned by Ilhan Omar's husband, Timothy Minette. And similar to the winery, in 2023, it made up to $51,000, and it had a sudden and very suspicious increase in net worth up to $30 million in 2024.
Are you trying to like meet with them or what is
Yeah. So in this video, we're going to see if they have an office. We're going to look for any signs to see if they're actually operating out of here, because this is their only dedicated address. This is the only address that is connected to this multi-tens of millions dollars worth of investment firm. Alex? Is there an Alex?
It took visiting this place to realize that Tim Minette also had E Street Group registered at this WeWork place. And by the end of this video, you will find out how they made $3 million. Spoiler alert, it was super illegal.
And that's the thing, folks. The joke is on us, right? The joke is on we, the American people, as we sit here and we're getting ripped off. We're getting scammed. It's our tax money that's funneling all that's funding all these fake businesses, right? Through Act Blue and NGOs. You saw it. The Somalian fraud. Right? That's how these are all funded. They turn a blind eye. Listen, when you have Somalians that have the average IQ of, what is it, 68, that's below retarded. That's below mental retardation in America. Right? These people didn't cook up these schemes. The Democrats did. The Republicans did. The corrupt politicians cook up these schemes. What they do is they have a central person, they network, and they convince these people, fill out these applications for these grants. They fill out the applications for the grants. They have people in the departments that rubber stamp the grants. The money goes out to these organizations that don't exist. The money goes out of the country, comes in through Act Blue and other entities, and slowly drips into the Democrats' coffers. That's the scam. It's that simple. Right? It was the NGOs. The NGOs got cut off by Doge and President Trump. The other one is this grant scam. All the grants that are given out by our government. I mean, for God's sakes, there was a homeless lesbian woman. Listen, homeless lesbian woman that got a grant for, I think it was like $19 million to make clothes for the people at the Pentagon. She didn't have a physical address. She didn't have a factory. She had to go find somebody to make this. The other scam is under Obama, Biden, and even under Trump, the minority businesses, minority contractors get prioritized for federal contracts, right? So what these bigger companies figured out is, well, we'll get a small minority business owner to apply for this contract. They'll get it. We'll do the work, and we'll give them money for nothing while we make most of the product or all of the product, and they do nothing. That's fraud. That's fraud, and the government knows it's going on. Nobody does anything about it because it's our tax dollars, right? They charge a ridiculous price to the government. By the way, to us. We're the ones getting screwed. It's our tax money. Right? And isn't it funny how all these government contractors and all of these military contractors, some way or another, they're all intertwined into either a politician or a government employee? How is that possible? Meanwhile, the American citizen is busting their ass 9 to 5 just to put food on the table and keep a roof over their head. And these crappy ass politicians are living the life on our backs. Right? That's why it's so important. We have to win these midterms. We have to maintain the House and the Senate, because as much as I believe that the Republicans are as corrupt as the Democrats, I believe that we can force them into doing our will. I believe we can mold them into doing the will of the American people. Got to make phone calls. You got to make phone calls, folks. As a matter of fact, today you should be on the phone because you want the SAVE Act passed, right? While these dirtballs are over there trying to grift off of the globalist on how to sell America out, you should be calling Lisa Murkowski. Her phone number is 202-224-6665. You should call her. Tell her you want the SAVE Act passed. Glitch McConnell. That's right, Glitch McConnell. I thought he was in comatose. I thought Glitch McConnell couldn't even think, but apparently he can. Right? So Glitch McConnell's number is 202-224-2541, 202-224-2541. Should be calling him, and you should be calling Tom Tillis. Tom Tillis is another one, another grifter, right? And you can call Tom. The number is 202-224-6342, and you're going to tell these corrupt loser politicians who live off the backs of the American, hardworking American people that you want the SAVE Act passed. You want the will of the American people done. Hey, Andy, how you doing, brother? Yes, we need to get rid of the illegals. But, Anthony, I want to tell you, I believe that the SAVE Act, right, the ability to be able to have ID, it's going to get rid of some of those phantom ballots. Now, we're not going to, I said this in the beginning of the podcast, we're not going to be able to eliminate all corruption in elections. It's going to be impossible, right? But at least we can cut it down to a manageable level. Oh, enjoying President's Day. Me too. I got the day off, right? Not because of President's Day. Well, because, it's just sometimes you got to have a day off, right? Anthony, in the chat, you got to tune in. I don't know what time you get up in the morning, but me, Tyler, and Skillet, we do a podcast at 5 o'clock in the morning on YouTube, right? And you can join us, right? I'm going to post it in the live chat, the link. hit the follow button if you have a YouTube account, and I'd really appreciate that because we're trying to build this up. We want to keep it going. There it is. You should be able to find our channel right there. Oh yeah, of course. I agree with you 100%, Ant, on the evil agenda of the government. I always say this with the Democrats and the Republicans, right? Is the Democrats and the Republicans will never do anything unless it benefits them directly. In which way? It benefits them either financially or remaining in power. That's it. They do nothing to benefit the American people. Right? They just try to screw us. That's all it is. And like I said, we've completely flipped roles. Right? The American people need to start to realize once again, right, that we are the ones with the power, not the politicians, not the judges. We pay their salaries. We elect them. Right? And we need to rein that back. We need to realize this in America, that the people are the ones that set the agenda and we have the control. And that's why one of the reasons I believe that we need to maintain the House and the Senate and possibly gain additional seats is because I believe that we can actually control the Republican Party. We can take it back and hold it. We have it. We have it. They're trying to slip it out of our hands. Right? The George Bush Republicans are trying to steal it back. And we cannot allow it. We can absolutely not allow it. But with that being said, we'll be back on here tomorrow night, 8 a.m. Listen, if you're watching me on YouTube, hit that follow button or subscribe button. We'll be broadcasting every night, 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time here on the Killer Karl podcast. You can also catch me Saturday mornings on the John Fredericks Radio Network, Saturday mornings, 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, a live call-in show. It's a lot of fun, but every night here on Rumble, YouTube, X, and Twitch. And soon to come, Facebook. We got to wait. I think it's 60 days. We got to have the account up and running before I can stream there live. But we'll be on all those platforms. And look me up if you have Facebook. Look up Karl Brown. Follow me there. And if you have YouTube, look me up on YouTube. It's Killer Karl Radio. And X, well, it's Killer Karl Radio there too. Right? So give me a follow on all the platforms. On Rumble, give me a thumbs up. Hit that follow button if that's your first time stopping by my podcast. And again, we'll be back here tomorrow night, 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. With a lot of fun. We'll have James from Empty Pockets Podcast, Big Tony from Big Tony Speaks, and the one and only Tim Skillett. Till then, stay safe. Happy President's Day, and we'll see you.